The castle was built over 270 years ago, and in that time we've hosted peacemakers and politicians and even monarchy. It was built as an aristocratic home and has hosted celebrities and lots of guests through the years. And of course nowadays we welcome thousands of guests through the door every year. So the idea of the tour is to try and reflect a really rich and diverse story that has unfolded in Hillsborough Castle, and a story that is reflective of modern society today. We're talking about history in a way that it isn't normally talked about. Traditionally, history is talked about through a male, white, heterosexual, non-disabled narrative. Bluntly put, it's the people who held the power who tell the stories. And there are so many rich stories either side of that narrative that we'd like to explore in lots of different ways. We look at the artwork here in Hillsborough Castle and the politics, but today it's the LGBT narrative. So we're looking at gender and sexuality and the stories that unfold when you just slightly step outside the norm. The tour takes you through the state apartments. Those are the rooms that are actively used today whenever politicians and monarchs use Hillsborough Castle. So you're moving through spaces where history continues to unfold. And that's why it sits so comfortably in this space, because of course sexuality has been politicised in the past. So that's part of what we look at is here in Northern Ireland and wider in the UK, how gender and sexuality has been politicised, but we also want to look at particular characters, because those are the stories that people love, people stories. So we will take you through 300 years of those stories, looking both at people who have visited Hillsborough Castle and have been related to it, but also taking a look at some of the really rich collection that we care for in Hillsborough Castle and some of the uncovered stories that we've teased out through that as well. It's really important to look at all of these characters that have always existed but have always been kept muted in some way. Today we're much more comfortable talking about gender and sexuality. It's also very important to hear about these types of stories as a person who identifies as LGBT, because not to be represented in some way in the media or in the culture that you absorb is to be rendered invisible. So we want to try and correct that in some way at Hillsborough Castle and to bring these stories out into the open and to celebrate them.